First thing on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any public hearings, but we have our presentations. Two presentations. The Minot Valley Youth Football,
Hi,
front and center.
thanks for having me. Thank you for having me. My name is Fritz Miller. I represent the Board of Directors from Dunn Youth Football. I'm on the Board of Directors. And I have with me, and I just gave it to the town manager, I think my wife has already emailed it to Matt, to somebody, Marcus. And she has a copy of the CDC guidelines, the Maine Principal Association guidelines, and the high school guidelines that the athletic directors put out. And we're gonna be strictly adhering to all of those guidelines. We're gonna only do flag football, even though it's a shortened season and it's not really football. We're gonna make the best of it and just be glad that we can practice our passing game. But we have, one of the first things that I think is a real big thing is no parents will be at practices. They'll drop their children off, the players off. The players will have a mask on. We're gonna assign a parent for each team who will kind of be on the staff really. And their job will be to greet every vehicle, make sure the player has his mask on, and he'll come out and the parents will leave. And they won't come back until practice is over.
It's gonna be good for the coaches.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, but we knew that there's no way that we could be the COVID police for a bunch of adults that are watching the kids. And there's no way. And on game day, which is really just gonna be a competition amongst the actual teams. So I'll be doing the middle school again. And let's say I have 24 players, I hope I have at least that much. I'll have a game of 12 on 12 on the sidelines, my assistant coaching. So that's 24, say my coaching staff mushrooms to 4 on that day. Right now it's just 2, but I got 2 other coaches that will come and help. So that brings us to 28 people. So with that number, we could allow 2 parents or 2 individuals per player to come watch and stay within the state guidelines of 100 people. So that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna be very strict about that. And so we don't know the numbers of the team yet. We just opened up registration yesterday, and we're closing it Sunday. Everything's a bridge this year. And so, but we usually have as many as 30 kids on a team any given year. Between 30 and 20. We've always had great numbers. So when we find out what that number is, that will determine how many people will be allowed to come and watch on game day. So if you have any questions on how we're gonna sanitize the bags. We're going strictly by, I don't know if you've read any of the Maine Principal Association guidelines, but the coaches would wear, unless I have a good distance from my players, I'll have my mask on. I'll have my buff right there at all times. The players.
Or you'll be fined $250,000.
Exactly. If they're within 6 feet of each other and they're just standing there talking, they're gonna have their face mask on. So they're gonna have a helmet and a mouth guard and put a face mask. And we're gonna have a parent watching that, and I'm gonna be very strict about it because, I mean, we've come this far and waited this long, and this sport means so much to these players. My kids are all grown up now. In fact, my youngest is gonna be assisting me this year, Elias. And but I remember the excitement as a parent because my boys both started when they were in first grade, and every year builds to the next year, to the next, to the next. So this is so important, and letting us use your field. It means so much to us in past years. And I've had coaches meetings here every year the past 6 years, right in this room. And it's fantastic, and we just love it. We really appreciate that. This year we're gonna have it at the MAC, in fact, tomorrow night. But so to have that field just for that one night, we have one coach, Keith Simmons, who lives in Friendship, and we have a lot of players in that Friendship Waldeboro area. It will save them a trip on that one night. As it turns out, we have use of the Union Field, Union Elementary Field again, and we're gonna have middle school on Monday nights, 3-4 on Tuesday nights, and 5, 6 on Wednesday night, so we won't even be on the field at the same time. So, but that would be nice to have that field as a break, and we'll go, and we'll be very vigilant, just like we're gonna be at Union, and make sure that parents don't stay, because I know how much fun it is to watch your kid practice. And, it's what you live for at certain time in your life. I know, 'cause I was there, wrestling, football, whatever it is. But we're gonna shoo them off, they're not gonna be allowed to stay.
It's hard.
It's what we have to do, it's for everybody's benefit, it's for everybody's sake. And, I can't wait till this whole thing's done with. I was dreading this all summer, thinking we weren't gonna, now we are. So, there's so much blood, sweat, and tears put into this program, and so much, that we're not taking any chances with anybody or anything. And that's why we're signing, we're very carefully picking our parents, we're getting bulldog types, no. I mean, and the coaches will be after it too. And the parent will be also watching us to make sure that we're staying on top of it. We'll be sanitizing the ball, sanitizing any bags that we use. The Maine Principal Association makes a provision when two individuals are in heavy exertion that they don't need their mask at that time. So we're still working out how exactly we're gonna do everything we're gonna do. I mean, to have boys and girls that are usually linemen line up to go out for a pass, I gotta match a lineman against a lineman, because I don't want them to be humiliated by some, tall, athletic kid who's one of the best athletes on the field, burning him or making him look foolish. So we gotta be careful how, it's gonna be a lot of work. So, any questions, concerns?
Two, actually. Do you have insurance?
Oh, yes, we have, we added a COVID carrier. We've had insurance with Sadler, they do sports, they're one of the biggest sports insurance in the country.
They've always provided that in the
Okay,
past.
and you can name the town as an additional insured then.
Yeah, I think we can, absolutely.
We've always worked that out with them.
Yeah, yes.
And as for the parents, are you gonna require any kind of hold harmless agreement with them, or statement that they're not gonna come after you in case a kid gets COVID-19 while they're on the field,
Well,
whatever?
there's a thing that they sign every year that is already pretty strict,
Okay.
like,
If you guys want, we have actually Keith Simmons,
yeah,
their organization had a really good COVID waiver.
yes,
So
yes.
if you wanna
waiver.
check with them,
We have waivers every year, and I think my wife is gonna add COVID to it.
yeah, it's.
And we recently put Keith on our board, and I know that Keith has already come before you guys, and he's been doing baseball, so he's already very practiced at this.
Yeah,
And,
but their waiver was perfect.
Yes.
Our MMA association liked it, so,
Well, we'll make sure that ours is at least, and we'll send you a copy of it,
yeah, that's
is
fine.
at least as robust.
Marcus, we'll work very well with you, don't
Yeah.
worry.
But we certainly do appreciate the use of that field. In fact, we wanted to make it our main football field, but it's just a little bit too short and too wide. If it was just a little bigger, it would work. But
Does anybody else get any other questions?
Just a huge thank you for what you're doing for the
Yes.
kids.
oh,
It's fantastic.
Sounds like you got it approved.
it's like,
Yep.
those kids are like spring, how every year spring amazes you?
Mhm.
And the kids are the same way. You get a group of kids you never met. A lot of times, I know the kids from the year before, but even when it's a lot of kids I don't know, and just like that, you just love them, and they just have so much energy. Yes.
I do have a question. Are the kids gonna be in pads?
No, that's why, as a long-time football coach, this is murder for me.
Flag.
It's just, in fact, we're gonna make them feel really special. We've reduced what we're charging. It's probably gonna cost as much as we're charging, $25. We're gonna get them some real nice shorts and a shirt. So they'll literally have on shorts. So nobody's planning to go to the ground at all. It's strictly flag. I don't even, in fact, the high school coach who's been practicing this, I'm gonna have him present. Usually I present to the coaches. I'm gonna have him present tomorrow night, because I don't even know how they're doing I don't know if you guys know football much at all, but there's sometimes you press as a defender, so the receiver comes off the line and you block him for a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't go around you and go deep. And so I can't imagine that they're pressing, but I'll find out. I'm gonna find out tomorrow night. But aside from that one little tiny bit of, quick block, it's just gonna be tight coverage. And then if they catch the ball, if you knock the ball down, if they catch it, you pull the flag. And that's it. Quarterback's not being rushed. There's no lineman to rush him. The guy that hikes the ball just stands there like a dummy after he hikes it. So 7-on-7, the guy that hikes the ball isn't really doing anything. And the quarterback has exactly 4 seconds to throw it. And if he doesn't, then it's a loss of down. So, and believe it or not, it's a thing. It's a thing. The refs in the state are used to it. One of them keeps the 4-second clock. 1,002, 1,003.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yep, we're fortunate in our
Yep.
community and surrounding communities to have volunteers like you and Keith and
Yeah,
to take care of.
thank you
Yeah,
very
to
much.
help them
He's
to
a-
help.
he's the
So is
best.
Cyrus,
Cyril Miller is my
Cyrus and
oldest,
Eli?
and Elias is my
Yep.
youngest.
Okay, I
They're 4
know
years
them.
apart.
Yep,
Elias won state champion
Yep,
wrestler
he was a
2 years in a
wrestler,
row,
yep.
yeah, and he won the local sports award.
Yep.
And one of our longtime football players, Eric Benner, won it this year. He won the Mid-Coast Sports Award. And because he got his 2-time state champion, and he went down and placed the highest anyone's ever placed at New England's for Madomic, that is. And he won all states, and he's a beast.
Yeah.
And I coached him. I had the privilege of coaching him 4th grade to 8th grade in football, and a bunch of others just like him. But he's a special, special guy. So very proud of him.
great, well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yep. Somebody like to make a motion for the Medina Valley Youth football
So
players to use the
Second,
field? Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Cool, all set. Well, we get another
okay.
presentation from the Johnny Daigle for Public Works and Transfer Station.
Come on down.
What's up, John?
Well, down in Hollinsville.
Is that new transfer station added on? Or is it always been that way?
Oh, it's always been that way.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Johnny has always run the transfer station.
Yep,
For 2 years. All right, I guess we must start with transfer station. Of course, this material out here, we've hauled ourselves over 2,000 yards of material to the transfer station for an added cover. We're closing our landfill down this year. DEP will not allow us to open up phase 3. When we first started up there, we had plans for 3 phases. All 3 phases complete together was only supposed to last 15 years. We've done 2 phases, lasted 31 years. So we've been doing things right. You know, it's quite a savings to the taxpayers of this community. So now, of course, we're at the point we have to close. I put it off as long as I could, and the reason I put it off as long as I could, there's a DEP grant. They're gonna pay in time for 3/4 of the cost of closing. So that'd be another tremendous savings to the taxpayers.
You're welcome.
So there's 2 parts of doing that transfer station. Part 1 was cutting the trash down and leveling everything out, getting everything prepared, getting the trees cut and everything else. The total project was coming in over 400,000. Looking at that, and we do have other issues at the transfer station, I decided to take on half of that, and that's what we've been doing this summer. Right now, day after Labor Day, George Hall has moved in, started to do the second part of it. He's gotta put in about 5,500 yards of clay. The clay had to be tested. It has passed all specifications, in which they're doing now in compacting it. His time will take at least a month to move that much material. So hopefully, before winter, it'll be all covered. We're not sure whether we will have time enough to seed it, so it'll catch. So it might just put the mulch to it and seed it next year. I'm in agreement with that, the engineer was in agreement with that, and we'll see what happens. So, of course, in doing so, we turn and we have to transport stuff out. And we have day pads, which we're gonna make changes to as soon as the landfill's done and we can start working on something else. So we started out with different prices. We ended up going with 9 cents a pound. It's working out better for everybody. And the reason it's working out better is people can come in and just dump everything in one area. The brick and the wood and the pressure treated, porcelain, everything all one area. It works out good. And we're sending that off to in Norwalk. Trying to remember.
Wait, it's not into it? No.
It'll come to me eventually. Age thing. Anyways, the same place where our trash is going right now. So, it has been working out well. It is, of course, another cost, added cost. And it's quite an amount. When you turn around for years, if people come in with a pickup load, stuff, our average is around $20. Now we're climbing up to $200. That's what it costs for them to get rid of material. But now we're like all the other towns around us. Years and years, people have been using our facility because we've been so cheap. So now we're on the same track as these other ones. Everything is going pretty good, but it's starting to cost. We're going through money quite a bit. The trash is going up. And the cost of everything is going up. And I'll give you an example. For July, we sent out 295 tons of trash. Well, the tipping fees for that was $21,076.84. The transportation cost was $6,300. And we keep creeping up. The biggest thing, we did save a lot, also by our recycling. Stuff that didn't go in the trash. We've taken 37,000 pounds of cardboard, 8,000 pounds of magazines, 13 of tin and glass, plastic, 6,000 pounds, mixed paper, 19,000, compost, 9,000, for a total of 96,000 pounds. And that's just for the month of August.
What was your revenue?
On,
Well, like you said, it's 9 cents a pound.
Yeah.
So are you,
right now, it's kind of had telling, and the reason that is because we've been loading it all summer because we've been up there working, and so we ended up charging to our excavator time. They just started loading the things in now. Matter of fact, last week, and I should know next month. I should.
because I'm just saying that the revenue coming in is, obviously it's offsetting.
It is offsetting, but remember, we haven't bought the bins yet. But that, we're gonna go back to that one too, in a minute here. So people are recycling, the recycling is down a little bit. I can give you an example, A plus. He's brought in 62,300 pounds for August of trash. He's turned around and also brought in 12,000 pounds of recycling. That puts him at 16%. Our goal is 18. You know, but we do have Miller. They brought in, they're at 24% for the trash and recycling. R&D, 29%. Wayne Luce, 28%. Nova, he's also at 16. He brought in 102,000 pounds of rubbish. We're getting a lot of rubbish, really are. And of
People are
course,
home.
and that's true. That hit me this real early spring. It threw me for a loop because usually you have spring cleanup, but it's so much early this year, and the tonnage has just gone up. But the tonnage is creeping up everywhere. We're turning around now. The prison brought in last month 92,000 pounds. You know, we was planning on them being anywhere from 15 to 30. That was the average before, but with this COVID, so that's happened a lot. I'm trying to figure out our tonnages in the year. I haven't found an even ground yet, really, to go by. They really haven't. So that will be interesting. Now on the demo stuff, and this is pretty interesting here. We sent out 204 tons demo, the wood, porcelain, everything else. We sent that out. A tipping fee of 14,607. The transportation cost 8,550. So you turn around and you look at that, you know, and we've sent 295 ton the same month, which was more, but our transportation cost was only 6,300. So there is a difference, and that's what the difference when you turn around, you go big containers or little containers. That's where you go, you know, 80-yard containers compared to 40 and 50-yard containers. The cost for transportation, you need a diesel, a big truck to haul it. They're gonna charge you, you know, the same price. We're paying the exact same price to haul them little ones as we are the big ones. So that's something that in our future will be coming up on that. So that's about it for the transfer, unless you have any questions.
How much longer is that receipt site, Norwalk or whatever it is, how long are they gonna be open? Is there an expiration date to where they are?
There is, there always is. But right now, DEP's trying to close everything except the line landfills. Brunswick is gonna be closing theirs. Everybody be going to these facilities. Right now, I thought it was like 15 years that they had to go for like a couple more cells. But they do have more acreage also, you know. So we're tied in with them for at least 10 years, which is great. Fiberite gets on board, it'd be even better for us. You know, if we can get that going.
And then your receipt capacity for the smaller versus the larger, what do you call them, trailers or whatever, is that the same? I mean, it fits, what you have fits the large one or the big, the middle or the small?
The area that we have to work on is gonna be engineered out, And I'm
Oh.
hoping to have the engineer look at both of them
Okay,
and see, cheapest way for us to go. Cause there's, noticeable
so it
difference.
fits now for the small or medium,
Yep.
but not for the large?
Right, not for large,
Ah, okay.
not for large.
And you wanna go large, which is more efficient?
I wanna go what I can go, but I'm gonna have the engineer at the same time, cause it's cheaper for me to have him look at it at the
Mhm.
same time, add it in his price on that, and see which way's more efficient.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Is it getting to that point where we might have to buy our own truck and stuff like that and haul it ourselves
yeah,
to
you
be more
know,
efficient?
where, that's what I said with, the amount of trips we're making,
Yep.
into these, couple different areas, I think it's something we're gonna.
You could
look
keep
at.
somebody busy
Yeah,
5 days a week, 6 days a week.
right now, the trips that we're sending them. Yeah. And I know we was worried about that before,
Yeah.
make sure they had enough work.
Right, and that's what I've been pushing for
Yeah,
years.
yeah, we've been
Yeah.
talking about
If
it.
gets to that point where it's costing us more
Yeah.
than it would to hire somebody to do it for ourselves, then
Yeah.
we need to look at it that way.
I agree.
Go ahead, Bob.
The MRC's looking at Norwich Walk,
Mhm.
Crossroads landfill, which apparently has to go in front of the DEP for an application to increase the area. Would you support that application?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely would.
I think that was one of your adjustments to the agenda you were gonna make.
Yeah.
Should we
but I
just deal with
wanted
that
to-
right now?
Yeah,
wanted to
just
get
discuss
John's
it right now,
feeling on
Bob.
that. Yeah, they're asking us to sign a point of support. EMRC is asking us to sign a point of support for that, the expansion of that landfill. And it's important. I mean, we all understand why we're diverting all of our stuff to that landfill at the moment because Coastal Resources of Maine isn't operating.
Right.
So is it okay if I'd ask Julie to sign that letter on behalf of the,
Yeah, if everybody on the board's fine with it.
What is it for?
a point of support for a positive consideration of the application that Waste Management is making to DEP to extend the area of the landfill in Norwich Walk at Crossroads.
You all set, yeah?
Yeah.
You want
Colonel?
a motion, Evan?
Yeah, we'll take a motion.
I'd make that motion.
Second.
Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob. John, continue.
Okay, so that's transfer station. The highway department, of course, I don't have much to say, because we've been working with the transfer station all summer. I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, we've been trying to do our other stuff we haven't been able to do. We did hire one new guy so far. I have another one I'm looking at to hire. And then I have to hire one for the transfer station. With Jason, get done. I'm afraid we're gonna have an issue with that one. And a few of the comments that I've heard is I can make more money at McDonald's and I don't have to shovel. So, we're gonna get to the point where I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna run into a problem this winter. Because I have a guy at the highway department that steps in up there and one person is down. That one guy that goes up there takes care of one whole roof. We are gonna run into problems. We did last year, and I'm not gonna do it again. So, yeah, gonna do something.
So what's, the problem is you can't get somebody to hire to go into that position
Right.
that you have open?
Right.
Okay.
Because we.
Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that can't find
Well,
people to work.
technically, I mean, they're not entitled to benefits.
I know,
So
that's what
you
I
can
mean.
pay an hourly person, you might have to raise that hourly because they're not getting
Yeah.
benefits up.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking, so.
Or, you know,
Do we have room in the budget for that? I mean, I know you anticipated it. in your budget.
We don't have room in the budget for much.
Yeah.
I mean, we can make it fit.
But
We'd have to make it fit.
there are days that I'm sure anybody in my staff would love to go up and just,
Shovel.
shovel something. I know I would be more than happy to run the loader and crush some things in a dumpster. Sorry.
So that is
That makes him laugh.
That is something that we're really, Julie and I will have to talk about,
Mhm.
you know.
And we've put it now, we went to a whole different way of posting the jobs to try to get more, because we get nothing from the newspaper. So now we're on a purely, online presence.
Good.
We get more response from Facebook, and
That's what Tanya was saying when she was
so
explaining.
we're doing it a little bit differently. Jobs in May, jobs in ME. So that's where we're at. And we've gotten at least 84 looks and 1 application. So
That's good, really.
at least people are looking.
So, that is one issue, that Julie and I will be looking at, hopefully. And hopefully we can come up with a solution. The other thing, the road projects, they're supposed to have the paving done, before October 15th. It'll be, down on the neck, Dutch Neck, Gross Neck, both landings. I don't have a chance to do Caston Chapel and the other ones. But you gotta remember, if I do them in the spring, I'm still within my year, you know what I mean? I just can't with the amount of work there.
Which ones did you say you're doing?
It'd be the next, Dutch Neck,
Okay, the necks
Gross
and the
Neck.
landings?
Yep, Dutch Neck, Gross Neck, and both landings.
Yeah.
What about Pine Street?
Pine Street Landing.
That's both landing.
But that's
Pine Street's already
included
begun.
in with the landing.
Yeah.
The landing to me is a parking lot.
Pine Street's
we're
been
doing.
paved.
Pine Street
Street,
Road's
oh,
already been
okay.
paved,
All right.
parking lot we're talking about.
And
Yep.
what about the municipal parking out here?
No,
Not this year?
just can't get it. Yep. So, that's what's happening now. My grader should be in at the end of this month. I'm hoping so, because people are starting to complain about grading roads.
Yeah.
Julie got one today, and,
And that one, I was up there, that's horrible. I mean, you can't drive 5 miles an hour on it, it's ridiculous.
What road is that?
Flanders Corner
Oh,
Road.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
so as soon as we get that taken care of, see what we can do. This was the first complaint when she told me. I heard about it.
Just,
Everything
it was a
else,
very visceral complaint.
they all, whoa.
I gotta be honest, it seems like that's what it is every time. And I think it's just, I think everybody's upset about COVID, everybody's upset about everything, and it just comes out all at Julie. It is what it is.
I guess you guys got another complaint from the Caston Road. And I'd asked Julie for you guys to take a ride out there. Hopefully you did.
There are
It'd be
pictures.
Chapel Road, right?
No, Caston Road.
700? Yeah, 700 Caston Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
went out there, photographs.
Did you think it was a problem?
Well,
Now, don't go well, you
No.
yes or no?
no, I'm just trying to be judicious here.
But I'm gonna tell you
There
why you
was-
shouldn't be.
There was brush that hadn't been removed. I mean, a lot of it's been grown back. There are some stumps, but
Okay,
what's your scope of work on that? That's the question I guess I have to ask. What's your obligation to worry about it if it's on town property?
all right, right now, when we go in, we do the roads completely, we cut them. That was just a maintenance job.
Okay,
So you're not done out there to start with.
No, just be ready, because we cut them, this is the way it was agreed on. We cut the right of way up, so we let the sun in, do like Fintown Road,
Yep.
We turn around and do, like Gross Neck and,
Yeah, and I remember when you did Fintown, it looked crappy the first year, and then you
Yeah.
didn't even know you cut it. Now
Yeah.
it's all grown back.
What's the agreement? I mean, where,
for who?
you said it was agreed upon.
Agreed upon through the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
That's what we do. We cut to the right of way.
Okay.
That's how come we got, Pintown was able to cut the road back.
I don't know if I was on the board when that happened, that's been quite a while.
Been a while, you should have been.
I might have been first, probably the
Should've been.
first year or something like that, because it's been quite a while, I'm on my fourth or fifth
Now,
year, so.
Second, it's my side of the story now, there's always two sides. That was a maintenance cut through there, that's like if there's a pothole,
So that wasn't even in preparation for paving?
no. No, if you have to go patch in a pothole, that's what we do, we go patch in a pothole. Brush, back years ago, when we sprayed, didn't have problems like we're having now, of course we can't spray. You have to trim them. That was just a trimming, just a maintenance, as long as you realize that. The other thing, that you should realize, that was an excavator that I rented. And it has a mulcher head on it. It doesn't cut. It doesn't cut, it shreds it. If you turn around and you go look, nobody on that job site had a chainsaw. Chainsaw will cut it. This shreds it. So, as long as you know that, it's the same shredder that I use down on Back Cove and on Jackson and all these other roads. But that was just a maintenance. We haven't really cut.
So I think part of the issue is that it seems like the road went like this, maintenance
Yep.
wasn't done, and then it went wider.
Yep.
And then it went narrower.
It does. What we're trying to do when we go through there, the people, most of the people, a lot of trees are gonna be cut.
So when do they get told that?
When we get ready to do it, I have to go in and lay out the right of way.
And how do they get notified of that? Because I think that's half the problem. Like, I guess that's, because I can vision in the future, I'm seeing into the future in my Julie Spidey senses, that this will create major issues. So I just, if this is something that
When,
if this is what was agreed upon, I think we need to know what was agreed upon, because
yes,
I want to make sure
Yep.
if we should send out letters first.
we do.
Okay,
It's automatically done.
okay.
That's not for maintenance, that's for,
That's just when we go in and we cut and
it's for the
change the
work.
culverts and
Yeah.
change the side slopes and everything else.
Right.
But so if you have okay, so let's speak in rods. So if you have a 2-rod road that goes to a 3-rod road and then back to a 2-rod road, you're gonna cut to the 3-rod.
I'm gonna cut to 3-rod where it's 3 rods,
Even
And
if
all
you
the-
even if the rest of the road is 2,
even if the rest of the road is 2.
and you're,
I'll be cutting to 2 rods on the rest of the road. The issue there, with this 2 and 3 rods, when we met,
Mhm.
and I told you I had to look it up. And you took them up to see Daryl and Stan. Stan couldn't find it, they came, they couldn't find it, they came and asked me, I told them what it was. I have an issue in one area of that road where the monumentation and the way everything looks like 2 rods. Until I can really get in there and start looking at stuff and seeing how stuff is lined up, I have to call it 2 rods. And usually do that when we send them out letters, because I'm on site, I'm there, the whole time we're doing that job, I'm there. I had 3 guys that was doing the cutting.
and I think part of the other issue with that situation is that the wall wasn't moved, but it was cut beyond the wall.
Stone wall.
And even though the stone wall might
Is it-
be in the right of way, it's just, I think it's it caused a lot of angst, and we're just trying to
Yep.
understand.
There's gonna be more next year.
Is that stone wall disappearing?
It's stone wall they put there.
Oh, okay. So,
So
is
will
it disappearing?
will it, will the stone wall be removed? I mean, I'd just like to emotionally prepare everybody for this.
I'll let you know, we go out there and do measurements and
But in the
everything else.
future, is that an area that would be cut again? Was it cut because it was a 3-rod piece of road or,
No, it's just the maintenance. We had the machine, we cut Chapel Road,
right?
we cut Old Augusta Road. We had a little bit more time left, all right, so, okay,
Okay.
let's go do
Is this
that.
a machine that maybe we could get a better machine that doesn't leave things so messy?
No,
Not unless you cut it with a chainsaw.
Yep.
And haul the brush off and chip the brush.
So maintenance, I'm sorry,
No,
but maintenance is, you said to let the sun in, did I hear that?
yeah.
Okay,
Probably a problem issue with icing up.
It does. I mean, Mother Nature helps us an awful lot in the wintertime.
how tall was the hedge?
It wasn't a hedge, it was a bunch of trees that were planted. A hedge is maintained, a hedge is cut even. If it's just trees that are planted, it's not considered a hedge.
Okay, I
So-
didn't see it because, but
Yeah,
I,
if it was a hedge, I wouldn't have touched that. Giffy wouldn't have touched it. You know,
So the planted, I'm just looking at the picture I took, the planted trees are on the other side of the wall, is
Mhm.
that right? But still in the right of way, they're still within that 3-rod.
Well, the thing is, Bob, you turn around and take a tree that's 20 years old, you got limbs that come out over 20 feet,
Absolutely.
you know?
so there are big trees like
No,
maple, oaks?
No.
Well,
just for fir trees. Yep.
So, excuse me, what is the right of way?
Uh,
And it sounds like it's variable, but
it is, most people don't realize, you tell people it's 3-rod road, fine and dandy. You can tell them that, but the rod isn't always put in exactly in the middle of the road.
Okay.
Sometimes more
so from the middle of the road, the crown of the road,
from the
Well,
crown of the road. but
not
that's
always.
But not always.
It can meander.
No,
The center line
Really?
might not be the center of the two
Oh.
rods.
That's right, and that's what.
so
it
it's
is.
not standard.
Oh, if it only were.
Yeah,
yeah, huh.
Okay.
All right, so,
Thank
so
you.
we will need to emotionally prepare in the future people for especially the paving, but not necessarily for maintenance unless the select board comes up with a policy for that. Of emotionally preparing people for
So what is our,
it
the
doesn't,
shredder,
but,
the shredder.
okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, I just know that since I've been here, the 2 times it was used, it generated much lilac bushes and,
No, lilacs, it wasn't that, lilacs was from, roadside cutting,
roads.
another maintenance.
Another maintenance issue, so I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a way to let people know ahead of time so that I can deal with them when they're still happy and I can try to ameliorate it
Yeah.
or I get after.
It's funny, some people think we target them, we don't. We really don't. You know, they think we do.
so
Trees are very personal. I know, I've
well,
had
if
trees.
you plant them.
They
if you plant
are.
them.
They
They're
get
very-
very personal,
they're
it
very-
does, and I mean, coming from a person who at one point, when our electric company in New Jersey wanted to cut down my beautiful cedar trees, may have stood in front of a truck and screamed and hollered and jumped up and down like a crazy person, and I admit I totally did that. Thank God there wasn't cell phone footage of it, but it gets personal, and my whole thing was, why didn't you just tell me?
It is personal.
It is,
And
it's,
trees are, they're lovely. I mean, I've got people who turned around and told me they were gonna shoot me. All right? I've gotten threatened, beaten up, and everything else. People don't realize, these trees get big. And when we have to take them down professionally, I mean, they're $1,000 to $2,000 taking down a tree. You know, you gotta have the flaggers, you gotta have guys there with chippers, you know, they lose power. We had Fintown Road, had a gentleman there, had an old tree, is in the right of way. He squawked and complained. Wouldn't do it, wouldn't let us do it. That was the first go around on Fintown, not the second time, the first. Tree ended up coming down, taking the wires, everything else, pouring. Yep, they called me, I go up and cut it, and he's standing in there watching me. Just didn't make sense, you know. So that was the first time with Fintown Road, then it went, trying to think, 15 years later,
There's
when we
something
did
on
it
Dutch
again.
Neck that gotten,
We had a tree on Dutch Neck, the same
Yeah.
issue.
We got issues there, and I've run into it, with trees or ledge. I had an issue in the area of Store Mountain with the ledge. Turned around, didn't want it blasted. The following year, some kids got killed there. Then they come up to me, you know, if you'd blasted that, I wanted to. You guys didn't let me, so. That's just one of them things.
How far in advance do you send out the letters?
By the time I go in, do the work, check for the right of ways, talk to the people, which they say I don't. You know, it's usually, I'm not 2 weeks ahead of them.
So they know 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah, they
What
get the
they're gonna
letter,
do.
yeah.
Is it worth considering a policy for maintenance and a policy for repaving, or so that we're obligated to let them know in both cases, here's what's gonna happen in the next 5 months or so, we're doing maintenance and we're gonna come in with a shredder and we're gonna shred X number of.
Even if we
weed
have
from the
it
center.
somewhere written down so that people could see it on the website.
Yeah,
Sometimes kind of difficult
to have a policy.
to turn around and have a time frame to do on the maintenance. I'll give you an example, and this is one complaint she's had. This was on Caston Road. My guys went by a chip and brush, then turned around, come back, went back by you. Do you know why? You guys don't know why, right? Why did we do that? Reason was, we had a storm, knocked down all kinds of trees. I split the crew in two.
Yeah.
Half the crew went on that end of town, half the other crew went on the other end of town. She just took it for granted, you know, that we were just la-di-da going up that chipping. No, we wasn't. We was getting the roads and stuff cleaned up from where the trees went over the wires and whatnot. I don't know, we can figure something out. I mean,
Something where we could say, here's our policy on maintenance, and
Yeah.
here's what could happen, and this is what it's gonna look like after.
Yeah.
You know, we're using this type of equipment, this is what it does, that might help, at least alleviate some of the questions and
Mhm.
concerns. Might make life a little easier.
So do people know, do they know when you're gonna do the maintenance?
no,
They don't know, so that was a surprise.
oh yeah. But
Like,
it
we know
wasn't-
maintenance happens typically in the spring,
Maintenance
summer.
happens, we try to trim the trees, we used to do them spring and summer, people complain because of leaves. So now we try to do it in the winter. And people don't complain because they don't see the leaves. So I don't know what season would be the best season for that.
I'm not so sure the policy would have to focus on the season as much as, or even the timing, as much as what it is that's done
So people
And
know that
why?
this will be done.
Yeah.
and why.
Cause I'm sure people aren't thinking about letting the sun in the winter.
Well, I don't think about the right of way. I mean, the garden club planted trees along my street many years ago.
Mm.
One of them needs a lot of trimming.
See?
Storms have done some of that.
I do have a lot of trees and they trimming.
Mhm.
People are gonna be upset.
So how far is like on Jefferson Street, what's the right of way? My front yard's only this big.
Yeah,
So-
Jefferson Street.
My house is probably in your right of way.
Jefferson Street is state, so that's probably a good right away through there.
Yeah, it's like 50 feet.
Yeah,
50 feet?
Yeah,
Well, that's probably into my kitchen almost,
yeah.
yeah, that was,
which is in the back of the house.
it's almost, yeah, it's right up against my house when they rebuilt Jefferson Street.
Yeah, when they did, they put twice they put the sidewalks up. I used to have a flat yard. Now the rain comes right in. They kept building it up.
So that's, something we're gonna have to look into, I guess. We can't.
Well,
make
thank you for the
everything happen.
explanation.
Yeah. Otherwise than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Can you do something for me? Make believe I'm blonde. Would you explain to me the, what do you call them? Rods.
A rod is 16.5 feet. That's the length of a rod.
Okay.
So if you turn around and take 2 rods or 3 rods or 4, we do have some in this town, quite a few that's 4 rods, road. So the average is 50 feet, 49.5 feet for that. So we do have some that are more.
That's from the center of the road.
That's what everybody thinks, Katie, but it's not. The road isn't built exactly in the middle of that. So I have to go check, because sometimes the road runs more one way than the other. So that's why we have to check. Lynn Winslow, the state right-of-way, he had put his big truck out there, and his wrecker truck, and a big rock. Reason was the right of way was more on the other side of the road, down on 32, and that was state road. And I believe that one there is a 5-4 road road.
Well, how can you tell where to measure?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
Yeah.
not the center, it's not the crown,
Yeah.
how do you know?
You turn around town, lots of times you can find old monumentation, all right? Pieces of stone wall, old stone wall,
Mhm.
makes a difference.
Mhm.
Property markers has a lot, shows a lot. And that's pretty much it. Some of them, we have granite markings in different areas of the roads. On Depot Street, on the upper side of the road, we have markings right through, they're little granite posts, about that size, and they come up, stick out of the ground. Allen Benner, out through that, we have markings. Bowden Road, there's quite a few of them. Yeah, and that's how usually you can tell. You can match everything up.
Well, that's interesting. When I lived in Brunswick when I was a kid, and we always, Main Street was 12 Rod Road,
Mhm.
known as the widest Main Street in Maine. So I think it was a unit of measure. Huh. So it's an old thing, huh?
I understand it, but I don't understand it. You'd have to show me on paper.
Yeah.
Why do you have to measure 2 rods against 3 rods against 4 rods in a road?
The thing was, when they first built the road, it was the easement that was given to the towns, to use as a right of way. Even Old County Road's the oldest road in Waldeboro, hasn't been used, but they talk about the width of that.
I'll come up sometime, you can join me in the court. But I'd just like to know how you can measure 4 rods against 2 rods in a road. So making it an hourglass, why do you do that? Instead of just making it the same all the way down.
I like to make it straight all the way down.
You know, it's been a good reason.
I don't think it'll work, but. And also, the other thing to remember is most telephone poles are in the right of way.
Amen.
It's public. And, you know, that's why I think CMT is the biggest taxpayer in just about every town in the state. Yeah.
Everyone all set? John? I guess you're free to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any
Thank you,
comments?
John.
Max?
Ruben is talking in the chat. He wants to thank everyone for the hard work and sacrifice, and he can see that in his tax bill.
People like
And-
that tax bill.
He wishes to be as calm as John is someday.
He doesn't know John. Hi, John, thank you.
All right,
As John is tonight.
As John is tonight, yeah.
next we'll move right along. Is there any adjustments to the agenda?
I just have one addition to the agenda. We had a request from Paul Wells today about his property at 103 Old County Road. If we could just add that to new business, that would be great.
So
10.2.
10.2.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hear none, all those in favor? All right, citizen comments. Is there any
No.
other than new Ruben? See anybody else? How about select board comments? Katie? No? Bob?
Just a request, if the county budget committee's meeting on October 9th, and if I have the permission of our town manager, I'd like to talk to Paul, not Paul, John Lash, on the policing stuff, just to see if he has any comments or feedback that I need to bring to that.
I think that's a good idea, and I think we should all be curious about what they plan to do about their budget.
Yes, yeah. I'll be curious to see whether it's up or down or sideways.
Did you have a meeting at the courthouse recently?
They said they had the meeting. They called me and said my book was ready, and I said, well, did you have the meeting? And they said, yes. I
Bill
said,
called me, and I think it was during a time when it just,
I think it did for everybody, was the feedback I got.
yeah.
and he especially called to, and I said, oh, if I can, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I just wanted to, John didn't talk about this, but at the last transfer station committee meeting we had, there was interest in a reuse building. It's like a swap shop, I suppose,
Yeah.
but it's not a swap shop, it's a reuse building. So people bring stuff that can actually be sold, and it's put in this reuse building and it's sold. You want to get rid of it, it's sold at cheap prices. So the committee members are gonna go out and look at reuse buildings sort of in this area to see what they're doing, what they accept, what they don't accept, how they price it, how big the buildings are, what they cost, and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
See what happens with that. That's all I've got.
Cool. Colonel?
Just two things, we've got two people that are interested in the Conservation Commission, Leslie Lawrenson and Will Pratt. Will Pratt, according to Jan, has already been interviewed as part of the Shellfish, and so we're gonna get together with Leslie here shortly and
Come up with a presentation,
hopefully add her
a
on.
nomination.
And they're brother and sister.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep, Laney Cross. Two kids, not nice, and they clean the town forest.
We also had another application for planning board
Yeah.
that you'll be
Oh.
getting.
Oh, okay, oh, good.
Yeah, Bob sent an
My
email out about
question's
that.
answered.
Yeah,
Oh,
Thanks.
yeah. Tanya will forward that to
Yeah.
you.
okay.
Jan?
Sounds good, yes. I do, a quick thing, I got a call, and I think we all have, and about, there was an issue this guy was concerned about, and he said, well, and while I have you here, I'd like to talk to you about why our taxes are so high in Waldeboro. And so I reminded him that we had cut our budget back, and I said, I just got the bill. He said, well, I haven't seen my bill yet, and I said, I think you'll be surprised. And anyway, as I was looking for something else, there it was. So I checked it out, and I have my bill from this year, my brand-new clean one and my old one, and my taxes are $91 less this year than they were last year. And so I could say, for me, my taxes went down this year, and I thought that was good to make that public.
Correct.
When people talk about the taxes are always going up, well,
And what people also don't realize, Jan, if I can add to that, is they like to compare us to our neighbors.
right,
And I just like to remind everybody, we are a full-service community with full-time 24/7 police with every shift covered. Full-time, amazing EMS paramedics, and we have a fire department, full-service public works. And we also do 17,000 individual transactions at the front office. So I think that people don't realize that. So if you want to compare us to a Friendship, Friendship doesn't do the BMV services that we do. Noblesboro does, but Noblesboro doesn't have police, EMS, that is town-driven. So, you know, when you start comparing, you just have to make sure they're
And they don't have
comparing
public
apples
works
to
as well.
apples.
or a population like ours.
Or a population. We are the largest town,
Yes.
as you say in Lincoln
Right.
County.
Yeah, well, anyway, I thought that was noteworthy that people should.
And there
realize
is a
that.
letter on the back of that tab.
I read it, not that one, but there is on this one. And that, I think, is from the Homestead Act, is why it went down, because I have another piece of property, and it's exactly the same, taxes did not go up. So I think we can say that they either went down or stayed the same. And yes, I read the letter, although I'd already read it.
I know, but
But I read it again as
people at
a
least,
citizen.
I've gotten a couple of good comments about, thank you for the explanation, and they
Yeah.
hope that even not in COVID times, that letter is
It-
continued. It's the one way to get to every taxpayer.
It is, it's a nice form of communication, and that's good, so. And our taxes are at 18.2 mill rate, and there are others in our school district anyway that are higher. You know, Warren is higher, and Union is just a dite below at 18. So we're in the ballpark. It's not that we are higher than everybody
And
else.
these other towns don't have the services we have
And
here.
we have the services, yeah,
Exactly.
and it's a balance, you know, we want to get the biggest buck. Well,
Yep. You all set?
You know that, yeah.
Guess we'll move along. Town manager's report.
The only thing I have to report is we're approaching our 1,000 mark for our absentee ballots.
Wow.
And we're still a month away. I just want to report too that we are, two interesting things. We will be open on Friday for October, strictly for absentee ballots, voter registration. So on Fridays, between 9 and 5, you can come get your absentee ballots, or you can register to vote. So that's what we're doing to extend hours, and hopefully that will be well received. We are, or have been for the last week and a half, open. We've been open the entire time, but I guess open to the technology, not technology, but open in the sense that you can walk into the building. That does not mean masses can walk into the building, 2 at a time, because of our space constraint and the configuration of the windows. So, because we have to separate our employees, we have to. Where Mel used to sit, that is where the town clerk is now, and Rose is still at the counter. So we can only fit 2 people because you have to walk past that other person to get to the counter. So we have been, quote, we're still honoring the appointments we made until October 1st, but you can come in. We can't give you a wait time, but you may have to wait, but it seems to be going reasonably well. We did it quietly and softly to see how it would go. We changed it on the website and on the phone calls, but we are open.
Limited by numbers.
limited by number. We ask that all the rules still apply. It doesn't mean you can just come in without a mask or you can come in droves, but,
But no appointments after 1 October.
right. But she is booked every, say, half hour, 20 minutes. So if somebody has an appointment, they're gonna get preference because they've waited 2 weeks for an appointment. So Alex, before you put this in the newspaper tomorrow, please call me so I can go through all the procedures. Because I know you're watching. I know you're watching, Alex. You scooped my website before I even got to say anything.
Could I just add something to what
Go ahead,
Judy
Bob.
said? I still get phone calls, and I get upset. I'm not when I'm talking to the people who call, but sort of internally a little bit, because they say the office has not been open.
It bothers
And
me too, but I can't.
It
they don't
has
hear
been
it.
open ever since COVID-19 started.
And I will reiterate that. We have been open. We
Never
didn't close
closed.
a day for COVID. We
Yeah.
have been here doing curbside, phone calls through the box out front, but to some people, that's not open because, and I still would love to know why people have the need to walk through the door and hand stuff that they could leave in the box. And I understand they might not want it. And there are just people who, I don't know. And I just hope that when people do come in, just be very kind to my staff. That's all I ask. If you want to yell at somebody, please call me up. Call me up, yell at me. Don't yell at the staff because I'm going to tell you, these are people who took a 20%. I just got to get this out there. So Alex, put this in the paper. The office staff took a 20% pay cut. They're not getting the same salary and not working Fridays. They took a 20% pay cut, but yet they still show up every day. They have great attitudes. We really are doing the best we can. Plus, we lost essentially 2 positions in the office. So again, that tax rate that stayed the same or went down, that's why. So we all have taken on more responsibility for less pay. And so when you come in, please, if you have a problem, come to the back office. You can do whatever you gotta do to me, but the staff has just been wonderful.
I told my caller today that I believe we were the only town office in Lincoln County that did not close during COVID.
I believe that is a true statement, but I could be wrong. I think maybe, because we
I'm not sure
reduced
if it was
hours in the
little.
beginning, but then, but we were open.
We never really closed.
No, we are the only town that did a couple of things though during that where I felt pretty special.
Yeah.
So
We did.
that's all I have.
Okay.
Happy.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Okay, move on. New business?
We have the Midcoast Humane Agreement to sign. We already did the, AOC contract with the county. So this goes hand in hand. This is where our animals go.
So you just want a motion to approve
Just I
that?
need a motion to sign.
I just want to point out that under this contract, individuals can bring their animals to the shelter.
Correct.
But they also, any animal the animal control officer picks up in Waldeboro is
Goes
brought
there.
to the shelter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And we also have to be aware that if there is an animal that's brought there and it needs medical attention, that is our responsibility. Not if somebody brings it, but if the ACO brings it, and they typically call me and ask.
Yep.
I
So-
didn't save the pet rat that escaped.
So somebody would,
$600 for a pet rat. No, I don't think that.
Julie,
I'm
Ruben's
joking.
wondering where the shelter is.
It is in, Brunswick technically, but it used to be in Edgecombe.
oh,
But
so it's
it's
moved?
not open to the public in Edgecombe.
Okay.
I believe that changed and now you go to the shelter in Brunswick.
Do you want a motion, Ed?
Yes, I would like a motion.
So I move we authorize our town manager to sign the contract with the shelter.
But
Is there
they've
a
been very good about calling when we do things like that, and I, very responsible shelter.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Sounds good.
Hearing none, all those in favor? Anyway. We'll move on to the Old County issue.
Old County Road, 103, Old County Road. The poor gentleman went to do something with his bank and required I guess a title search or something, and an old deed from 80 years ago showed up. It said that the two neighbors and the town of Waldeboro shared a well. We no longer use that. I'm sure of it. Daryl researched it, we talked to Paul. It used to be used as a dry source. It's got a dry
Dry hydrant.
We haven't used it, it's not part of our ISO rating, but he needs a letter of no interest from us for his bank to be able to do something. So, talk to his attorney, talk to him. Everybody's fine with doing this. I just didn't want to do it without a motion to approve me to do it, and if you approve it, everybody will be very happy.
Somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? You are golden.
Thank you.
Old business.
I will have the Friendship Street School lease done. We are just trying to iron out what the true cost for electricity is. As Bob knows, with the solar, some of the cascade and how it comes out, we're trying to make sure we give them the right amount of what that's going to be as soon as I have that resolved. So I hate to keep doing this, but I'm kicking it down the road to the next meeting.
Okay.
Discussion of local questions for November 3rd ballot.
Okay, that's next. I'd like to start, because I think Holly's here for the land use ordinance. So this would be a question, shall an ordinance entitled an ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the town of Waldeboro, Maine be enacted? And then, because it's so thick, a copy of the proposed ordinance is on file at the office of the town clerk for public inspection. Now, they've already had their public hearing, correct, Max? We're going to have our public hearing on the warrants on October 1st. So we may have questions then. I don't know if you can come back then.
October 1st. Is it
It's a Thursday.
probably, in the evening? Is that-
Yes.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock, that would be
Yep.
great. That'll be the only item of business that night, but I didn't know if any of you had questions or,
I'm just wondering if we can not only make a copy available at the town office, given the strictures of going in and out from COVID-19, but also post it on the website.
it already is.
But do we want to say that in the question?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so a copy of the proposed ordinance is on file at the office of town clerk for public inspection and on the town website.
Sure,
I think that's important.
I like that. Did you happen, this brings up the other thing I wanted to bring up. Did you happen to all get what I emailed you yesterday, later in the day?
Yeah.
That PDF? And I don't want that to replace the town report, but if you looked in the back,
Oh,
did you
yeah.
see the beautiful way that the town warrant was done with all the explanations? And it's essentially what it is a voter's guide. And I think
Yeah.
if we could replicate that,
That would be cool.
it would be awesome. And I mean, imagine the amount of information we can provide.
That's a lot of information.
It really was a lot of information, and it would be great. I talked to Steve today about that too,
You go.
Nolan. Nolan.
at Steve Nolan at the,
Oh, high school, yeah.
the school. That would be a great way for us to disseminate all this information about what appears on the town warrants. So,
And we wouldn't have to print it. You could just, again.
right,
put
I
on the
wouldn't mail
website.
it. They actually mail,
I know. like,
they actually mail it, but they're a much more affluent community.
money.
But we could do that. But yeah, I can include that. Excellent idea, Bob.
Do we want to vote on this one?
Yes.
Would you like to make a motion, Bob?
The motion is to put on the town warrant the article about the ordinance amending the land use ordinance of the town of Waldeboro with the addition of it being available on the town website.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Makes sense.
Do you have any questions for Polly for the ordinance itself?
Yeah, Polly's here in the audience, and Rick, the house nurse, also here via Zoom right now, in case anyone has any questions or comments.
Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions about it?
I just want to say that I listened to that hearing, and the committee did a huge amount of work on that thing. Not only from dotting the i's and crossing the t's, but also making substantive changes in some areas, cutting out part of the ordinance to make it a separate ordinance so it's easier to amend in the future, changing the home occupation rule a little bit to make it more flexible for families to have businesses in their homes. I just have nothing, just good things to say about the job that was done.
Was there any increase in people working for home occupations? Because we,
Yes, originally, we allowed only 2 people who didn't live in the house to
Mhm.
be employees. Based on the comments from the planning board on Wednesday, that will now be 4.
okay, cool. Which was Bob's issue years and years and years
Yeah,
ago.
it was.
I think it's amazing, just in the short time from when the comprehensive plan committee turned that over to now, and to have it ready in this amount of time, I think you guys did a fabulous job.
That's a lot of work.
And I
That's
thought
a
it was
big one.
really great, the makeup of that committee, that had representatives from all of our different committees, plus the public, and we really tried to get a good group there. I thought they just worked extremely well together. Having watched some of their meetings because of COVID, but they also did not take a break during COVID.
Right.
They worked the whole time too. They were open.
I want you to know I have a perfect record.
Holly, I had no
Attendance record.
doubt that you were going to have a perfect record.
Well, yeah, I guess we're all set with that, correct?
Yes. Thank you so
Items for
much
the
for
agenda
coming
for the
out.
next meeting.
I have a question for you
Oh,
on that,
sorry.
on absentee ballots. When is the actual voting to take place?
So, we have been,
Regarding,
yeah,
absentee or.
we have been told that we will be getting the state ballots October 4th.
Yeah, okay.
As soon as we get them, we will have a stuffing palooza, where election clerks and the town clerks and, well, the deputy clerks, we will stuff them and send them out. So that first week in October, technically it might be the second week in October, they should be going out.
So we will actually get it in the mail then?
You will be getting, if you requested a ballot, you will be getting it by mail. If you have not requested a ballot, you can come and pick it up in person.
Okay.
As far as, we are very blessed here in Waldeboro. When we deliver, everything goes right into the post office, so we don't seem to have a delay, so that's a very good thing.
Cool. Now, would you like items up for the agenda for the next meeting? Do you want?
No, we have to go through the rest of the questions.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought that was it, that's right.
No, we have more
Sorry,
questions,
sorry,
more questions.
Oh, no, I alone have 2 more.
Okay, sorry about
The
that.
next one would be, this would be, and there's not really much we can change on here because this was done by the bond attorney, but this is for the question of shall the town approve the refinancing of our outstanding debt that we can? Plus, it also includes the $274,000 for the grader that John said as he mentioned, we should be getting it in a few weeks, but because it was so close to when we could have the refunding sale, we included it, which was the intention of the budget committee and the select board from the very beginning. But I didn't wanna do a lease purchase and then spend that money for that and then do it again, so we're just including it. So this is the legal language that we have to have. And bear in mind, we had talked about including the potential for building the community center in this originally, just to see, that way we had the money. What was recommended by Richard, you'll recall, who's helping us with the bond sale, and both Lee Bragg, were If you really wanna take a pulse and find out, we can use the non-binding referendum questions to figure out, one, do people want to support a community center? Two, what would they be willing to spend? That way, we can have a special, after that vote in November, we can then have a special town meeting where we pretty much know how that will go, and then that can proceed on, and then it's just a matter of having the sale. So, that's where we are with this. And also, we're only doing this for 13 years because that's the useful life of the equipment and everything that is still wrapped up here. And Bob asked me a question, just to be sure again today. We cannot refinance anything that was funded by Maine Municipal Bond Bank because we're not allowed to. So the town garage, remaining 200 and some odd $1,000 for the town garage is not in this bond issue. And then, last but not least,
The non-binding.
the non-binding question.
Sorry, do we want a motion on the bonding
Oh, yes.
to go that, put that on the warrant?
Oh, okay.
I'd move that we put the language of the attorney on the warrant as regards the refinancing through the bond issuance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
So, just a quick thing for the bonding questions, the warrant articles are 3 different questions. You're aware of that, correct? For the land use ordinance, there's the one for the land use ordinance itself, one for the floodplain management ordinance, and then one for rezoning 80 Gray.
Well, then we need to, you need to give me that language
Okay,
of what the question should be right now.
I need to, okay, let me pull up my email.
Do we need to take back the motion?
Well, no, because there's 3 separate questions, so we should be okay.
So we gotta
Didn't
just
we already,
have 2 more motions.
Yeah.
So, you can go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll move on.
Yes, we'll move on. So Max? Non-binding questions.
So these are the non-binding questions. So the first non-binding question, and I get this, we have been, as the public should know, we have been approached by Leadvance, who owns the former site of the former Sylvania site and the Hofstas homestead on Friendship Road. And one of that was a subject of the Sylvania Task Force for the last 3 years.
Yep.
We've been dealing with that. The task force has put together some recommendations, and if you'll recall, about a year ago, the task force presented their findings of what they wanted to see happen to the property if they could. I believe there were walking trails were suggested, solar.
Covering the slab.
Covering the slab
Yep.
with a clay cover and planting grass, making it look nice so that when you drove by, that would exist. Sometime in, I forget if it was after Christmas or January, that property went up for sale. At that point, Leadvance approached us about the potential for gifting that property to the town. COVID hit, that kind of fell to the wayside, and then we received a draft of an agreement that would gift the property to the community, to the town of Waldoboro. We are placing this on the question on a non-binding referendum. And the reason it's non-binding is because ultimately, the select board has the authority to accept gifts of property. You taxpayers and voters vote on that at the town meeting every year in an article. But, so the question would be, are you in favor of the town of Waldoboro accepting a gift of property located at 405 and 467 Friendship Road known as the Sylvania Site and Hofstas Homestead, which is under an environmental covenant by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. So, a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, an environmental covenant was placed on both of those properties. So there are, that does exist on the property. So that is how that question is phrased. Does anybody have any modifications to that? But I think it's important that we gauge what the support is of the community for this. I know, a couple of weeks ago, one of our Conservation Committee members, our newest member, put something out on Facebook about that, about what do you think of this idea? We should approach the town to see if maybe they could buy it, because it, you know, it was listed for sale. And it was interesting because there was a lot of interesting comments about that on Facebook, and it seemed very supportive of that. But again, and we can go into much more detail when we have the public hearing. The public hearing on these questions and everything else will be October 1st, which is next Thursday at 6 o'clock. The next question deals with A.D. Gray. Are you in favor of the town of Waldeboro selling the A.D. Gray School for $1 to Volunteers of America in order to provide up to 36 units of affordable senior housing within the original footprint of the A.D. Gray School? So if you'll recall, the original footprint of the A.D. Gray School had that little L off the back. That was torn down. So when we're talking about the footprint, it's the original footprint, not the existing footprint. Does that sound
So where the L was, they'll be able to add on.
correct?
Okay.
Correct. That is the current proposal. The next question is, are you in favor of the town of Waldeboro constructing a community center at the existing recreation complex on West Main Street? So this has brought up a couple of questions. Does anybody have a better way of describing that location?
The ball fields.
I
I
would
put
say-
in parentheses, the ball
The ball
fields.
field's behind the Miller School.
Okay, the ball fields,
I do it in parentheses so people.
okay.
probably
Well, there's
more-
a street sign there. Moody Street, Percy Moody Street or something in there?
I was just there Sunday too, and I noticed there was a sign. I
But
can't
people
remember what it
probably
said,
won't
but
know
yeah.
where that is
I was
either.
right by the
So we're trying to give them
office.
landmarks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
next,
the ballpark's
the entrance is by
Is
the,
that? Better than most.
Hey, can we go back for just a second?
There's a
Yes.
gate from the
When
back
you're
of the
talking
school.
about the original footprint of A.D. Gray, I'm not sure that L wasn't an addition, because I think the original footprint was the brick building.
So
So I
I just
think,
don't know how to,
I know, it would
what would
maybe
be a
be
better,
the footprint of A.D. Gray, maybe a year or something, but I just don't want to get hooked up with original. I think it was an addition.
Yeah, that was, because that was blocks.
It was.
That was
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah,
How about
There's-
something
so-
like including the L
The
added
addition,
on, to the- it gets wordy, but added on
Yeah.
the back of the school.
the footprint of the addition,
Amended?
And the L,
would it be better to give us a square footage, a square footage of the footprint?
no, because then you could put it anywhere.
well, the footprint, when the school closed. That would be the footprint of the school when it
Okay,
closed.
are you in favor of the town of Waldeboro selling the 80s
There you go.
in order
That's
to
something
provide up
direct.
within the
Understand, the footprint of the.
footprint of the
of the
80 Gray School
At the
at the time of closure?
closure, yeah.
There you go.
There, then we won't get, you know,
Yeah,
just in case.
And that will
At the
include.
time it was closed, instead of at the time of closure.
That's about the rezoning.
I'll get to that when they're done with the non-binding.
at the time it was closed. Okay.
2008, do you include the year just in case?
Yeah,
In
what's that,
2008?
2008.
Is that when it was?
That's what I thought it was.
Yep, well, could be.
Well, I always thought it was about 10 years ago, but then I thought that a couple years ago.
Is that when it closed?
It was,
Uh,
Because my boy graduated in 2010, and he went there, so it had to be after that. Because he graduated in 2010.
There's a plaque in the new school that says when it opened. I just can't remember
We will
what it was.
confirm that date.
It's right there on
Do you think
the-
the date is important?
According to Penn Day Pilot, it was 2009.
Is when it closed?
Yes.
Well, 2008 would have worked anyway.
So that's,
Right,
so now we're on to the
Technically, that's-
community center, so.
okay.
So then we have choices. So I want to go over these choices because we bantered around with different prices. And just so you know, the Recreation Committee was just starting this project when COVID hit, and they have not met. I think, you know, that's been something that they had been working on. But what Marcus did, and I give him credit, right before COVID hit, they had come up with their needs. And what they would recommend that we do for the community center. And roughly, what they came up with was a gymnasium, kitchen, locker rooms, bathrooms, a walking track, and this was based on the survey they did, if you recall, they sent out that survey. Multi-purpose room, office, storage, open space and mechanical, and it came up to be 24,000 square feet. Marcus contacted several places that have recently built or are in the process of, and what he found was current prices from Wyndham. And based on that, to build exactly what they want, and this is his estimate, the closest estimate he came was $6 million for the construction. And that's at a 24,000 square foot building. So we wanted to give other choices so we did 6 million, 4 million, or 2 million. And you have to choose from one of the options below. And it says, are you willing to bond $2 million for the construction of a community center that would add, and we give an amount that it would add every year to the annual debt, $122,313 to the annual debt service payment for 20 years for a total cost of $2,446,260 based on assumed interest rate of 2%. So those are the questions. The last question for the recreation center is, I do not support construction of a community center because, as you know, the last 3 surveys that were done over the past 10 to 12 years, people have been in support of building a community center. However, we've never had this many voters and residents turn out, and that's why we're trying to take advantage of the turnout to really gauge the sentiment of the community. So those would be those questions. The next question is, are you willing to increase the operating expenses for the recreation department by $216,000 annually in order to operate the community center? Now, of course, this is, and Marcus described this as the worst case scenario, because depending on what they're willing to fund, those other items might have to be reduced to fit. So this is worst case scenario. My question to you is, and these are, that's a guesstimate, because it depends what kind of efficiency will the building have? I'm assuming better than some of the places that he called to get, what does it cost for you to operate as far as utilities in your building? So there's a lot of play in that number, but it gives you a ballpark. And we haven't factored in any revenue here for offset, so we have to be aware. But I think no matter when we put it on a ballot, those questions are going to come up. And I'll have Marcus here next week at the hearing too, so that he'll be here to address some of these questions.
Should it be up to?
Suggestion on that language to massage it a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Can I make a suggestion about that language?
That's why we're here.
Okay, I don't know that we're increasing operating expenses at this point because we don't have any. I would just suggest that we say, are you willing to authorize up to $216,000 a year to cover operating costs for the recreation center?
say that one more time.
Yep, are you willing to authorize up to $216,000 per year to cover operating costs for the recreation center? Or the community center, we should, it's a community center,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, for the community center.
Okay. And the next question is, are you in favor of the town of Waldeboro allowing Lincoln Health to construct a medical arts facility in conjunction with a town community center at the existing recreation complex on West Main Street? Again, we should put the ball fields behind Miller
Right.
School.
Yeah,
In parentheses.
What if they wanna build it at Sylvania?
They can't.
Well,
I don't believe
they
it.
could. I mean, that's
I mean, can we put it here, West Main Street?
on town property and not even have a location.
that makes it easy.
Yeah. I mean,
Instead, yeah.
just in case.
Yeah.
Still covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
That way, I mean, for all we know, something could fall into
You
our
never
lap.
know.
That is
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then the last one I struggled with mightily because our architect is not done. Because of COVID, of course, we were delayed with having the evaluation of this building done again. So I don't know an amount, and it could be less than this. I just don't know, but are you in favor of the town of Waldeboro bonding? And I put 1.5 million to renovate the municipal town office to improve the public safety facilities. That would add 91,735 to the annual debt service payment for 20 years for a total cost of 1,834,700 based on an assumed interest rate of 2%. Again, they're not done their evaluation and we haven't seen their recommendations. But it gives us a gauge again to see what that is. Should that be two different amounts, do you
Could
think?
you just say up to 1,500,000? That gives us a high number, but maybe less than that. Kind of hard really without knowing.
It is very,
it
it
is
is
hard.
really very difficult
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
COVID kind of put us behind the 8 ball and that's, but I don't wanna give up the opportunity to
Yeah.
talk to the voters because I think it's very important you're never gonna have this much engagement in an election cycle for another 4 years.
Right.
Where we can really gauge what the community thinks should happen. And our issue here at the town office isn't so much the town office is in, as far as administration, but it's accommodating our EMS and sleeping quarters for them because they are 24/7. Also, space requirements for EMS, police, and fire, reconfiguring how the garage bays work and things like that. So that would be all encompassing. But I don't know if that's a high number, you know,
Well, up to lends itself to,
I had it at 1 million.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't sure, so if you
Yeah.
think 1 million would be better, but I figured, I don't know.
I know we've discussed possible having a new building out back for the EMS and having,
And I can't imagine it being that
No.
much,
I
but
mean, you could, maybe 500,000 maybe, but, I mean,
again, I didn't know if that should be layered
if
like,
that's what you're considering, if you get the ambulances out of the garage, that gives more room for the police department.
any
And
of
the
that,
EMS will have their own building
right,
and their own facility. out
right, and it frees up bays for, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I'm just not.
that's hard to know.
It's hard to know,
It
and,
is.
We're not
but my
building-
question is, should it be tiered much like the community center is?
Oh, up.
Should we give a 1,500,000, million, and a $500,000 option? I don't
That
know.
probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Because that would give us a gauge of how big we could build it and how,
Because my thing is, there's only so much money, and people have to know, they need to have a voice in, it's great to say, I want this. But sometimes you have to cut your pattern to the size of the cloth. And I just think that that's something we have to really think about. And it's great for us, you know, or people to want things, but, you know, we still have to be able to afford it. And that's where I think, I don't know in the history if we've done stuff like this before
I don't believe so.
on this scale. You know, we're asking them to make decisions on a lot of things, but we have a captive audience, and I don't want to give up on that captive audience. Do you like the idea of adding more questions, or
I'd leave it as it is.
leave it as it is?
It's more intuitive than anything else, my feeling on that.
I think that's a big number. I think it'll scare people.
That's,
And we've discussed this before, is all we're really talking about is the EMS department and taking care of their needs. So, I mean, 1.5.
we can reduce that number. I don't,
Well, we don't know how the public is gonna react.
that's
know,
why I was
really.
curious if,
We don't,
if
yeah, and
adding
you've got a
those
range in
other,
there, which is perfect. You know, they may come in and say, look at all of this money that we're, you know,
What are they building?
right, what's going on?
I think the
Yeah,
tiered
we don't have
system,
this money, you know.
I think the tiered system.
They lowered the taxes this year, so they get it.
Yeah.
right, well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is, and I think that, I like the idea.
I mean, it makes sense, it really does. But we need more in the town, more income. We need more taxes
Exactly,
going
yeah.
out. We need more businesses. We need more everything.
And you don't know how COVID has changed
Right.
people's perception, and that's why I think it's also important is what are people going to say, and this is really an interesting question, is do they want to go to a community center after COVID? I mean, how much is COVID going to change how we look at things in the
Good point,
future? Are you
yeah.
going to want to go to a place that congregates? I mean, obviously, I think kids are still going to want to
After
play
the
basketball.
vaccine hits, will it be used?
And things like
Yeah.
that.
I think
know,
so.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't
And
know.
I guess
Nobody.
that's,
Yeah.
I don't have my crystal ball.
I know, that's what you need, is that crystal ball.
You know, but I heard, you know, just because we've been talking about this for the last couple of meetings, I've gotten some phone calls and people have said, well, why aren't we utilizing more of the school gyms? You know, that way you don't have to build a recreation facility or a community center. And so, I mean, I think those are things that, and should we have, like I said, the 3 questions, so I have 1, 2, that think we should add more questions. Bob said, leave it as it is.
I'm cool, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy to go along with the flow here.
Yeah, that would be, if we format it the same way as you did the community center
Okay.
one, that,
I think it'd give
mean,
you
that
more.
would be okay.
I think at 1.5, it's gonna scare people.
Does that include the heating? We're going through some of the ducts and heating issues here, and this money will, so it includes that too.
Once you tear it open, you might as well
Might as
just
well fix,
redo.
yeah.
Any questions, Max? See you typing.
Ruben just asked if people said no, if that could be pivoted more towards internet, but I just said that that would be a separate question entirely.
Mhm.
Oh, adding in the internet question.
No, saying no to the community center. If people, yeah, no, this question's been answered.
Oh, okay. All right. I can make those changes.
Okay, 500, 1 million, 1.5 million. That's what you're doing.
And should there be I don't think there should be any improvement
Well, I don't think,
question, because I think we do have
Well,
to
if
make
we have
improvements.
we're gonna have to. I mean, it's not even a question.
It's just a matter of how much to spend.
Right.
When was this building, when did this open? You know?
Was it the 60s?
No.
I know,
No, no.
it's-
Later than
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
there a
'cause-
plaque outside? I don't
It
know.
I
was
don't know. It
here
was
in the early
down on,
nineties,
it was
so.
on Jefferson Street.
Yeah, it was here in the early nineties, so it's
When
gonna
I-
be in
when
the
I lived
eighties or
here.
seventies.
Well, I think the first iteration was in the early nineties, and then there was an addition put on.
Correct.
An addition here?
Mhm.
Yep.
Which part's the addition?
I can't remember how it went.
We got the file in the back, don't worry.
I remember
Yeah.
coming in and the great big office, it was arranged a little, I thought it was the biggest office I'd ever seen. I had to go far to find
It's,
Becky
you know,
Maxwell.
and this is what I said to the architect is, like I said, the town office itself, the administration, we have plenty of room, it's just configured poorly.
Yeah.
And that's a space issue for us. But the rest of the building does need a little, you know, like I said, a look at, and you're right, it is an EMS question. But, so, Max, you have your,
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead and just take a look at the highlighted block. I'll read them out. So the questions were written as, question 1, to adopt a Waldeboro land use ordinance dated November 3rd, 2020 to conform with the 2018 comprehensive plan and to repeal the existing land use ordinance, but you've already gone through that one. Question 2, to remove Article 8, floodplain management, from the existing land use ordinance and to adopt a floodplain management ordinance as a separate document. And then question 3, to amend the existing Waldeboro land use map by changing the district for the property located at map U4, lot 63, from the village district to the historic village district.
okay,
I'd move those two articles.
Well, hold on.
well, I would move all three,
All three, okay.
because he does repeal and put
Yeah.
it back in.
Okay.
There
Is
was
there a
more
second?
information.
Is there a second?
Second,
Is there any other questions? or-
Yeah,
Discussion.
I think you should put, when you describe the lot is
80 grand.
80 Gray Building.
Yep, you can go ahead and put that in parentheses.
Yeah, that's what
Okay,
that people ain't gonna know
right.
where that is. I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, if you put something to describe this, the 80 Gray Building, people are gonna be fine with that.
okay.
Any more discussion?
And I'm gonna put that on one order with 3 questions. Because they're all land use questions.
And those are binding.
Those are all
So
binding,
that's-
yeah,
Excellent. Do we have to make a motion for those?
you should.
Okay.
For each one.
No,
You can make it all in one order now.
Mhm.
So you would remove the original one for the land use ordinance and replace it with this.
Okay, so,
We'll vote on this and then remove the other one, or should we
Remove first and then,
Okay.
so, all right, I'll withdraw my motion. If you withdraw your second.
Jan.
I do.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. We're gonna go back and,
we have to now make a motion to place these 3 questions on the ballot or on the warrant. To adopt a Waldeboro land use ordinance dated November 3rd, 2020 to conform with the 2018 comprehensive plan and to repeal the existing land use ordinance. To remove Article 8, floodplain management from the existing land use ordinance and to adopt a floodplain management ordinance as a separate document. And 3, to amend the existing Waldeboro land use map by changing district for the property located at map U4, lot 63, also known as the 80 Gray School, from the village district to the historic village district.
I'd only add one thing to the first one that you talked about. We probably ought to put a date reference when we talk about the existing land use ordinance. I think it's as amended on August. When was that amended the last time, Max?
I think you're gonna just confuse.
That's gonna get very confusing for some people. And I did have, and this was put in the newspaper for a few weeks, so I don't know how many additions we can really make to this. I think we're fine making the amendment for the 3rd warrant article, because it's not changing anything, but it's just describing the lot, but, repeal the existing land use ordinance.
It's whatever's existing right now. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter when it was amended.
Okay,
so you'll make that motion, Bob?
I make it.
Is there a
He
second?
did it.
Second,
And seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
The train?
Okay,
The train voted too, I like that.
yeah. Woo, maybe that's a sign.
Is there anything else?
I don't think there is anything else.
Is there any questions on,
So can we just have, we have Polly, she's here. Do you think it's a good idea for us to be asking all those questions?
Which one?
Well, all the non-binding questions, just to gauge people's opinions.
Are you specifically referring to the recreation thing?
To recreation, to the gift of the
Office
Sylvania
renovation.
property.
Yeah.
Building.
Yeah. I
80
do think,
gray.
Yeah, because it's good to be included. And there, particularly with the Sylvania property, there's always something popping up in the newspaper that you can't do anything with it, it's grossly polluted, it's gonna kill anybody that walks across the land. And I remember, when we first moved in here, reading horror stories about it, and then people start talking about building on it or, reclaiming it somehow. So I think if you give people the opportunity for something like that, make it clear that whatever you want to do with it is possible and beneficial, then they can have input instead of having all different sources of information. The same thing goes with the community center. And I think you're really gonna have to describe what that is. I know that there was a survey sent out with all kinds of stuff. I think personally that I'm too old for the community center. If I'm going to do specific exercises, we have a new treadmill that we use, and we will probably wind up getting another dog. Which means
That's a
doing
form of
dog
exercise.
walking,
Well, exactly.
you know?
But that's important feedback because we
Yeah.
keep the surveys that were sent out or done, with people during an election day sitting there. And I think that's important. And probably the people who sent back the survey were more geared towards certain segments of the community.
Yeah, and I do think that some of it's age dependent.
Correct.
Because if you had a walking track.
And that's one of the things.
Yeah, because in December, dog walking.
Should
not
we
so great.
include that list? We might have to amend our motion again. I guess I can cover that during the public hearing.
It should be for all ages, and I
Right,
think
and
we
maybe-
did bring that up, because
Maybe it
I'm with
should
you, Polly,
include
I'm there.
their list of what would be included in that. It would be would you be willing to support, but then you're kind of cutting your cloth, yeah.
Just one word, I took a lot of courses at Camden Regional, that fabulous high school. And they were all evening adult ed, writing and this and that, stuff, art. And I could not go there without seeing a group of people using the cafeteria. They built a thing around the cafeteria. So while everybody else was doing their stuff, that became a walking track. And they had double purposes for a lot of things in that building, which benefited, like you said, all kinds of different age groups and all different times of day and evening, and loads of courses. So that's something to think about too with the recreational center. Do you want to because almost all of their courses were handled by regular people, not necessarily experts in the field. They had a fellow that was about 77, absolute doll,
Well, Madonna has,
giving exercises for seniors.
Madonna
And
has
then
the
they,
adult
right next
school.
to that, they had a writing class.
Right.
And then art classes, everything you can imagine, cooking. So I mean, when you think of the center, I think you need to think of as wide a variety of purposes. And so when you send out a survey, you can say something like, what would you like to see in this? Instead of giving them options, let them give you options.
And I think, I know they came up with this list based on the survey results.
Right,
Yeah.
it was, but once again, this is an opportunity to see lots and lots and lots of people.
Right.
as opposed to, I don't know how many they had. They
And
had
the
a good
answer-
response, but
And it's, because Marcus and I had the discussion today, the answer might be people aren't willing to pay for something like that. And then we would have to find an alternative. And that alternative might be just like you said, and this couple other people I talked to, which was, how do you involve the schools, getting the courts more used, you're right, using the track to walk on, or during adult school, could you open up certain areas
Yeah, you pay
to,
$10, you know, to use it for a
Right.
week or a month or whatever.
right,
And the same thing with the courses, the instructors didn't make a lot of money, but the school, you know, I mean, the school or the center, whatever, you get a piece of it.
right.
The fees were so reasonable that they got a huge fall. And they split it, you know, so that would be in addition to whatever whatever you had to pay back.
Well, thank you for that input, we had you captive, and I didn't wanna let you go without
I mean,
asking.
use your brain.
Well, because it's good to have the interchange, and I think that's what the select board really wanted to have happen, is they really wanted the ability, you just can't give up this huge voter turnout and not find out what your voters think, when your residents
Easy
think.
to throw away.
These are mine.
Thank you so much.
Are we moving on now?
Yes, we can move on now.
Okay.
Sorry
You
about
already said there was
that.
gonna be a short meeting.
I lied, it was John Weigels' fault, not mine.
So are we good? We're all good at the time to go.
Has anybody got anything for the agenda for the next meeting?
We still have the French's Street School.
French's Street.
Yes.
Yep, we'll add that. Anything,
It's
Bob?
gonna be October.
Am I supposed to sign any? Before?
We haven't been past it yet. You got anything for the agenda for the next month? No?
Right now.
Colonel? Jan?
No, I can't think of anything right now. I was thinking
Sure there will be.
I'm
October.
sure there will
I'm
be.
sure there will be.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
That was quick. Is there a
He's
second?
done.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Okay.